That way we can go ahead and get started. Alrighties. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I'm super honored to be able to speak to you today about what opportunities are available in Salesforce Ecosystem. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started, and then I'm going to go off so you don't see my face anymore. And then we can take it from there. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to jump in and ask me as we go along, or if you want, we can do some Q&A at the end. I'll go ahead. Could the host give me power to share? It gave me an error message. Okay. There we go. Thank you. And can we confirm we see a very pink presentation? I think so. All right. And I think someone's still not on mute. Bear with me a moment. Yeah. Sounds like we have a multitasker. I think I may have the power. Let me. I do not have power. All right, we'll just go ahead and get started and see what we can do. Okay, so opportunities in the Salesforce ecosystem. How to find your calling in the Ohana, which you may or may not know. That's what we refer to the Salesforce Trailblazer community.
White chair. The white chair. Sure.
So we're going to cover a few topics today. The first one is, who am I to be, who am I to talk to you and tell you about opportunities in the Salesforce? So I just want to give you a little background on who I am. And then we're going to talk about what the opportunities are. How do you find them? And then once you find them, how do you take advantage of them? And then we'll cover some things to go over for your next steps now that you know what you're looking for. So introduction, who is Cece Adams and why is she telling me this stuff? So I am a senior platform developer currently at 7 Summits, which was recently acquired by IBM. So we're 7 Summits, an IBM company now. Before I became a platform developer, I spent 6 years as a business analyst at various companies doing all sorts of different things. I've worked at small partners, I've worked at medium partners, and I'm currently at the largest partner company I've worked with 7 Summits. I have actually been in the Salesforce ecosystem since 2008. Which is before Lightning and before a lot of the things that we have now. After I took a break when I had my oldest son, and then I went into customer service for a few years. And then I found myself back in Salesforce permanently in 2014. And now I've been in the ecosystem hardcore ever since. My qualifications is I currently hold 14 Salesforce certifications, and I am currently working to have 20 by the end of this year. I'm also a certified Capado admin. It's a development operations tool. And I'm also a Salesforce platform champion, which means that I'm one of those who's been recognized to speak the gospels of Salesforce. And sometimes I get to pop up in Dreamforce and Salesforce videos showing other people and kind of being showing representation of the different people that are in the Ohana. On a more personal level, I am a mom of 2 boys. They are 11, about to be 12 next month, and just turned 8. I also have a Chihuahua / Jack Russell Terrier mix. He is very energetic, but he's also very adorable. But I'm not doing something with Salesforce, which is not very often. I love to travel. One of my goals is actually to take my mother to Ghana next year, assuming that things work out as they are with the coronavirus vaccine. I love to crochet. I love to make blankets and all sorts of other things. And I love to read. And a weird fun fact is that I am a huge fan of the show Grey's Anatomy. So you will see quotes from that show splattered throughout pretty much anything I do. So now that you know a little bit more about me, this is one of my favorite quotes. Because we're talking about opportunities, nothing to me and to this character, nothing is worse than missing the opportunity that could have changed your life. The reason I threw this in here is because Salesforce has transformed my life in ways that I had not predicted on both a career level and both on a personal level. So I think that Salesforce and the ecosystem is one of the best opportunities that are out there for anyone, but particularly women and women of color. So what opportunities are available in the Salesforce ecosystem? Salesforce ecosystem is massive. The predictions, and I pulled this from Salesforce's Trailhead, the careers page, but in the next, 2021, in the next 3 years, we're going to have at least 4.2 million jobs in the Salesforce ecosystem that have been created. And this is from a study that was 2019. So they predicted in 5 years, we'd have 4.2 million jobs. I love this chart because it shows you, for the most part, where jobs are located, but it also shows you where the gaps are. For example, they did not highlight that in, I just did some research that in South Africa, they're predicting that by 2024, Salesforce jobs will be adding in $2.1 billion of revenue to the economy. That's just in South Africa. So I imagine that it's going to be expanding all over the continent, but we're just not getting those numbers yet. Salesforce in general, jobs in this sphere are third, at least as in 2018, they're the third most in-demand technology skill, like in the world. It says it generated 500K jobs in 2019. That just continues to grow every single year, even with the coronavirus pandemic. And in this industry, we have some of the largest job growth. The three most in-demand jobs in the ecosystem, and that's across the board, are Salesforce administrators, Salesforce developers, and Salesforce architects. With Salesforce architect being the unicorn. Not is there, because of the qualifications required to be an architect, it's really one of the higher sought out paths because it's not as common. But the same thing is with developers and administrators. As jobs continue to grow, as businesses continue to be created, they need people to manage those. They need knowledgeable people to build the code and do things of that nature. So when thinking about Salesforce opportunities, the thing you want to think about is, because there's so many different things that you can do, what career is right for you? What path do you want to go on? And one thing I like about Salesforce is they have clearly defined paths, but it does not mean that that is what you have to do. So you have the chance to kind of create your own roles and ways, depending on your interests. Any questions so far? All right. So let's talk about these careers. So the one thing that I really like about the Salesforce ecosystem is that even it's competitive as far as salary. Even entry level jobs, junior, I came into this industry as a junior business analyst. And I was able to grow in that role from junior to business analyst to senior business analyst, because there was a path that I was able to go through. And with that career progression and the changing of titles, came a change in salary, which is something that I feel could really be talked about more in general, but it's something that is a consideration can be a consideration when choosing your role. So again, I pulled this straight from Salesforce, and these are averages, so they're not exact, sayings, but these are the averages for what you could potentially make in your careers, depending. Things that make the difference do include certifications. Those go really heavy. I'm seeing super badges on Trailhead. Those are being used a lot more. And even education. However, I can say that this particular industry is one where, while I am still working to get my bachelor's and I do want to have my master's one day, I was able to find success without needing a formal college degree. I actually just got mine in 2018 because I was able to use certifications and expertise to kind of compensate for that lack of formal education. So that's something that I always try to mention, because I know sometimes that holds people back from wanting to apply for certain positions or to feel qualified. But at least in the Salesforce world, I have actually found that my certifications counted a bit more. Bear with me a moment. Let's see if we can. Could everyone make sure that they're on mute? I thank you. Alrighty. So, as I was mentioning, in this ecosystem, it's one where formal education is always a boon, but it's not the end all. Like, if you don't have a degree, I just got my associate, so I don't have a 4-year degree. If you don't have a degree, you can still be very successful in this ecosystem. And then this just gives you some examples of average salaries, but they really do fluctuate. And then one thing I wanted to call out is business analyst is actually now becoming more of a distinguished role. You'll find a lot of companies, especially American-based one, the business analyst and the Salesforce consultant, they're really they're pretty much the same thing. So salaries range and it gets kind of interesting. But as far as it goes in the ecosystem overall, it is one of the most competitive ones. Okay, so before we jump into 3, we've talked about what the opportunities are. We've talked about where to find, we've talked about where the opportunities are. Now we're going to talk about where do you find these opportunities. So there's different ways to find a Salesforce job. I think that's one of the neat things about it, is there's no one way. So some of the more conventional or common ways that I see are through the Trailblazer community, now available through Trailhead. By joining different groups, I've seen people send out calls for different jobs and be able to respond. There's also specialized groups. For example, if you have military service behind you, there's Trailhead Military, aka Vet Force, and they're constantly providing job opportunities, additional trainings. So there's using the community, and the resources in the community are definitely one of the more common ways, or becoming more common ways. Another way is through Salesforce user groups. It's networking. If there's not a user group in your area, this is a great time to start one. Because you never know who else is interested, and they don't have that networking venue, especially since everything is changed and we don't have them in person. And you can also have your own virtual user groups. Those are everywhere. I'm personally in 2 groups in my area where we have virtual meetings. LinkedIn is, I would say, one of your number one resources. Your LinkedIn page is how you present you to the world in your professional career. I actually got my first job back in the Salesforce ecosystem from LinkedIn. My Trailhead had been linked to LinkedIn, and my badges were showing through. And then the recruiter saw how many badges I was getting, and it caught her attention, and she messaged me, and it went from there. So LinkedIn is definitely a really, really good resource for locating jobs, but also career development. They have courses you can take, and just networking, because a big part of the Ohana is that you can, word of mouth is big. You can meet people who know people and find jobs in that way as well. Another way is through Salesforce focused recruiters. The biggest one that I know personally is Mason Frank. And I mention them because I know they're global, and they've actually gotten me work from time to time on a contract basis. But they are focused on finding Salesforce recruiters, or excuse me, Salesforce properties, and they work their butts off for you. So I do think that they're a good resource and a good way to locate jobs, and they help advocate for you and your salary too. There are some other unconventional methods. Sometimes there's a huge, huge Trailblazer community on Twitter. And through that, people pass news about jobs. I saw a tweet just this morning about someone who had a job opportunity and asked them to be DM'd. It also connects you to different companies. It gets you on Salesforce's radar. You can interact with them directly. So it's a really great outlet to say, hey, I'm here. I love Salesforce. I'd like a job. Give me one. And a more popular one I'm seeing as well is TikTok. I know quite a few people who have Salesforce focused TikToks. And by using Twitter and driving traffic to the TikTok, it's getting them attention and getting them on the radar, which gets them jobs. If I had to choose recommended ones, I would stay with the conventional methods, but unconventional never hurts either. Trailhead. So this one, I think there's no introduction. Trailhead is your mothership, not only because it is your access to things like the career path, your certification guides, your badges, but it also gets you to the Trailblazer community that I just discussed. And the thing about Trailhead is those badges do garner attention. I know sometimes it seems like they don't, but it does. Like being a ranger, it's something that people look at and say, hey, because that means you dedicated time to get 100 of these badges. And with Trailhead, the super badges, those are really garnering a lot more attention. From what I understand, they're almost like a level or so below certifications. So the more things and badges and super badges you get, the better you look to those recruiters and people who are looking for Salesforce people. Okay, so now that we know what and we know where, now we're going to talk about how. How do you build up your skills so that you feel comfortable going for a Salesforce career? So the 3 that I'm mentioning here, certifications, your networking, Trailhead, these are going to be your top 3 to help you find a job in this ecosystem. There's no particular order for them. It's just these are the things that I know and I've personally used to find multiple jobs and find my success in the ecosystem. So the number one thing is not number one, but certifications are huge. You don't need certifications to be successful in the Salesforce ecosystem. However, they help you thrive. They are a way to show your expertise. They're a way to show your dedication, because some of these are not easy tests. And they are a way to leverage yourself to say to an employer why you're worthy of the salary you think that you would like. As big as this ecosystem is, and there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in there, there's like about 80, I'd say 90,000, 90 to 100,000 people, if that, who are actually certified in anything Salesforce. That it's starting with admin and going up. That's a percentage. That's a small percentage. So by having even one certification, just by being a certified admin, you're setting yourself apart from a large section of Salesforce in the ecosystem that's within it. Networking. I am an introvert. I love not talking to people. That's kind of why I'm a developer now. But I do love interacting with people in certain times, and things like social media, when conferences open back up, those are a great avenue. User groups, you meet once a month, you talk Salesforce, you meet new people. And they have other events like Trailhead DX or Dreamforce, the different events, online or not. Those are different ways to meet people in different areas. In different areas, and you never know who may be able to help you find your next opportunity. In my own career, the recruiter came to me for my first job. It was through someone I worked with that I came to my next job, and it was through someone I worked with that I got my job that I'm in now. And because of that, I was able to transition. I was able to find a job relatively easily, but I'm in a job where I'm really happy. And then who knows, my next job, should anything change here, it's probably going to come from a friend who's working at a company who I trust enough to follow them to that next opportunity. So that's when I say networking is, it doesn't have to be a lot, it's quality over quantity, but definitely knowing people and being open to different people can help your Salesforce career in so many ways. And not to beat a dead horse, as we say, but Trailhead. Trailhead. Badges, super badges. They get you on the radar. I've seen people who are like 10x, and to me that's just amazing. But when I see that, I pay attention to it, and so I know other people are as well. All right, so I've given you a whole lot of information. Where do we go from here? What's next with this information? So to recap what I just said, we just want to remember that there's a lot of different things in the ecosystem. You are not tied into one job. If you go in as you want to be an admin, and then you want to be a business analyst, and then you want to be a developer, and then you want to be an architect, and then maybe you want to do marketing cloud, you can do that. Do not feel boxed in, because there's so many different things to do. I think of Salesforce as my creative outlet. So that's why I'm a developer. I like to build the things, but some people like to ask the questions. Some people like to come up with the solutions and not really implement them. There's something for you in there. Just don't be afraid of it. Use Trailhead in the ecosystem. So, Twitter, LinkedIn, user groups, use your connections to help you find your jobs, as well as, Glassdoor or your traditional job searching methods. And like I said, use your tools. Get your certifications. They're an investment, but you can always get around that. There's certification days. There's, there's all sorts of free resources on the internet to help you learn these things. There's Salesforce Help. So there's always some sort of way for you to get the information you need to help skill up so you can help get your job. Networking, Twitter, LinkedIn are the two that I recommend for those resources to keep it kind of professional. If you're going to use Twitter, please make a separate Twitter from your personal one, if you have one. That way you still keep your freedom, but you still have your social media presence that you could refer to professionally. And the biggest thing is don't be afraid to apply. A big thing that I've heard, there's even like a study on it I saw recently, but a lot of women in particular, we're scared to apply for jobs if we feel we don't meet all of the qualifications. If we don't tie and tick every, bullet that's listed on the job application, it doesn't mean anything because may just be meeting bullets, but you may have other skills that'll offset that, or that they may not know what they're looking for until they meet you or talk to you or until you apply. So don't be scared because it's not perfect. If it's a job for you, it's a job for you. And at the very least, you'll grow. I can only tell you guys so many stories about how I just got thrown in stuff at work and no idea how to deal with it. But you learn and you grow. So don't be scared to apply, even if you don't feel that it's 100% the match. You are. If it's for you, it's for you. So another quote, just because I'm a bit annoying, is that the expected is just the beginning. It's the unexpected that changes our lives. I did not expect Salesforce. I did not expect this ecosystem. I did not expect this Ohana. It happened, and it's been one of the best journeys that I've had. So if this is what you want to do and you want to be in Salesforce world, just know it's going to be an unexpected journey, but it's going to be an amazing one. So this is my slide to say thank you so much for even having me here. If you need to reach me, here's my email, here's my business phone. And then I threw in some resources, direct links to Trailhead, the Trailblazer community, LinkedIn, Twitter, VetForce, which is what I mentioned for military. And this last one is for the International Institute of Business Analysis. We didn't really get to talk about it, but if I'm going to make sure you guys get a copy of this deck if I can. If business analysis in particular is where you would like to be, then this is an international organization that helps you give those research. Give you that research. Yep, I can go back. I lost my slide. There you go. And in the deck itself, you guys can have a copy. I'm going to make sure there's a copy provided. In the deck itself, it also has my Twitter. That's usually the quickest way to reach me, is honestly that, because I don't know why, but it is. But Twitter or email or the phone. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please reach out. And it'll also have my LinkedIn as well. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Cece, for the amazing presentation. So we have people from Nigeria. We have people from Ghana, Kenya listening to you. We have people from Africa, Kuwait, Dubai, Canada. Well, one of the questions I would like to ask is, could you tell us a bit of what a Salesforce business analyst does? Because a lot of our women do not want to go the developer way, which is coding, JavaScript, but something they could utilize their soft skills on, like communication skills, stakeholders, management, business analysis, process flow, process management, and how. Could you just fill us in on what exactly a Salesforce business analyst does? Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So it varies, but at a high level, business analysts, we go in, the way I put it is I go talk to companies. I figure out what they need. We go all in their business processes. How do you run this? What happens if this button gets clicked? What happens if this customer does this? We get all of that information, and then we write it up into what's called user stories. So the user story is how we tell the client and the developer, okay, as a customer, say for example, I'm me, so I have to write my presentation. So as a speaker, I need to use Google Slides so that I can make a presentation for you guys. So that's a user story. We create all those user stories. And then as the project, the client approves them, we refine them or groom them. So we make sure all the requirements are there. We know exactly what you need us to do. And then we put it in a system of tracking. So it could be in spreadsheets, tools like Jira. And then as the project runs on, so the stories are approved, we keep that flow going. So maybe the client changes their mind and they want to change the requirement. We make sure the stories are updated. We do the testing. Some business analysts do the build, depending on your job and where you're at. So that part kind of varies. And then at the end, we're the ones who are responsible for making sure that the requirements are met. So because they've told us what they wanted, at the end, we need to make sure that that's exactly what they're getting. Or if not, we need to make more stories and figure out how to fix it. Yeah. There's a lot more involved, and it really depends on where you're at. There's no one Salesforce business analyst that has that role. Some don't do any configuration at all. Some do a lot of the configuration. Some like to do the actual building process charts and diagrams. Some do not. It varies depending on the company, but basically we're the ones who find out what the client wants and make sure that they get it. Did that help?
Oh, yes, it did. Thank you. It's going to cut us off anytime from now, but we expect that people come in to ask more questions because this is question time. But does the business analyst do some configuration? Do they do drag and drop? So it's just basically gathering all the requirements, drawing all the process flow, the customer story, user stories, and everything. Or what, aside from the documentation, do they do anything technical?
They can. It depends on the skill set of the business analyst. Like, I like to have my hands in everything. So I do like to do the config if I can. But I know some business analysts who do not. They are just like, that's not my thing. You build it. I wrote up the story for it.
That's amazing. So all they do is just document, right?
Yeah,
so with
for
their
the most
CBAP,
part.
so with their CBAP certification, understanding of business analyst, and having a slight knowledge of Salesforce, they are good to go.
Yeah, but for a business analyst in Salesforce, you should have at least an admin knowledge, because you need to be able to write.
Sorry, I was the one that asked the question. Sorry, did you? So, and the question was for Cece. So I was just asking, Cece said she was a business analyst for 6 years, and now she's a Salesforce developer. So I just wanted to know if, as a Salesforce developer, if she still uses her skills, like everything she learns as a BA, or she's still using them now that she's a Salesforce developer. So that was my question.
Yes, I saw it in the chat. And yes, every day, like those skills, I use them in life. But no, those skills do not go away. I probably annoy my BA on my project because they're still there. But I still, every day, when I'm trying to build something, I'm going to ask some underlying questions. Like, okay, what's the purpose of this? What is this supposed to do? Have you thought about this? Are we sure this is the best way to go? It makes me laugh because I probably am driving them nuts. But it never goes away. Like, once you learn how to ask those questions and try to get to those underlying, like, why are we doing this? What's the purpose? It always stays.
All right, great. So sorry, as a business analyst, which of the Salesforce certification would you advise? Would you advise the consultant or the developer or the admin?
It depends on what sparks your joy, actually. So I started out as an admin. You get to build things. Usually admins you're with one company, right? It's more steady. But as things went on and as I love to learn, I need to learn all the things all the time. So I found myself outgrowing the admin role. And then that's when I started transitioning into business analysis, because it gave me another side of it. Instead of just doing the thing, I wanted to know why we were doing it. And that's what business analysis is. It's why are we doing it? What's the process? What's the purpose? What's the end goal? And what are we getting out of this? And along that line, so with business analysis, things are a little bit different. You talk to different companies you talk to different companies. So you kind of bounce around. I know a lot of random things about a lot of random companies now because of this role, but you're client facing. So you're the face of the project in a way to these clients. So your boots on the ground, you have to travel. Or when travel was a thing, we used to have to travel everywhere. So I used to be bouncing around. The back end work is more documentation, a lot of taking notes, because you have to keep track of, you're asking questions, what are the answers? You have to track those. I found the work to be a little more administrative. That doesn't appeal to me. I like to build the things. I want to know why I'm building it, but I want to build it. So I wasn't fully happy in a BA role, even though I was successful, I was good at it. There were aspects of it I didn't like. What I've always loved is making things. I've always loved building the cool things. I've always loved when a workflow rule runs or a process builder works. That's when I started looking more over into the developer side. And the more I found out, the more interested I got. And then I started pursuing it. And when the opportunity, I made sure my job knew that I wanted to do that too. That's another big part of it, is I was able to make these transitions because I had support. No one told me I was an admin, I had to stay an admin. You're a BA, you stay a BA. They were like, oh, okay. You're not happy as a BA. What would make you happy? You want to be a developer? Let's see what we can do. So it was, sorry. I was keeping the bandwidth. Let me show my face. So I can't recommend or say what you should do. I think it's what would make you happy at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, if I was a BA and I was, good at it, it wasn't a good position for me because I wasn't happy in it. Does that help convey it? I'd say find what tracks you, what sparks your joy, what's going to make you happy at the end of the night, what's not going to have you stressed out as a job, because you spend a lot of time in our jobs, and go from there. If you just want to work with one company and have that sort of steadiness, but you still get to be creative, then you're a good admin. That's a wonderful fit for a lot of things. Actually, we're all admins at the base of it. We all have to be admins. If you want to find out the whys and you want to talk to different clients and customers every day and find out how different businesses work and get those requirements for them, then you're a business analyst. If you want to build the cool things, you're a developer. You don't have to be into code to be a developer. I am not a code developer yet. I am a platform developer, which means I do click and drag, I do workflows, I do up to like flows. But if it becomes Triggerland, that's not me. We have someone for that. Those are bigger people than me. So that's another piece of it too, is you don't have to be into code for development. You can still be a developer and do that too, but you have to figure out where your joy is and go from there. Ooh, that's a good question. So do you mean a product manager or a project manager? I just want to make sure I understand. There's a question in chat.
Okay. So Ronke asks, what's the difference between the admin role? Okay, kindly explain what the admin Salesforce is all about. What are the major skills
Okay,
needed?
so
This is an answer question.
so for admins, think of it like, you know, if you ever need to change your password, that would be an admin functionality. An admin is you are at, you know, I'm at Cece Inc. and I'm responsible for running my instance of Salesforce. So I need to make sure the users are set up properly. If you need an object created, I'm your gal. Typically, if you like, basically all those functions that are needed are done by admins, but you also, depending on your company, can be involved in the planning process too. So say you need to update approval processes in your company, you would be a part of that whole requirements gathering. Like you'd be your company's BA of ways without being an official BA. It gets a little murky because Salesforce is Salesforce, but an admin is basically who's responsible for that org, for just, you know, one or company or two companies, depending. The skills that are needed there are at least 3 trailhead paths specifically towards administrators. Skills that would be needed, it's not like you don't need to know code necessarily. However, it helps if you can at least read it. Sometimes I used to have to read triggers and figure out what's going on. Even if I don't know how to make them, I still need to understand. Basic platform knowledge, you know, creating users, objects, like the admin, like if you were to join Salesforce 101, stuff from there. That's what we would need for admins. And then you can go above that. So you can be an advanced admin, which means that you have a higher skill set than admin, like admin. That makes sense.
Yeah, the way I always like to explain it is, let's say, for instance, you work at T-Mobile, or maybe in Nigeria, one of the biggest telecommunication company is Nine Mobile or Airtel, for instance. So when you call a customer care about your network or about your internet or about your airtime having issues or anything, the customer care enters the details into the CRM, into the customer relationship management tool. So if the customer relations lady, for instance, has issues with the application, if for instance she has issues with her password or she has issues with some technical items, right? She then reports or reaches out to the administrator of the CRM they are using. Am I correct?
Yes, yes, that's a perfect use case. That would be like Service Cloud, for example, because they're putting in the information. Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. That was a great example. I'm going to jump to the how long will it take to be a developer one, because I think that one's easier to answer, and I'll come back to the product manager. So there's no time span for being a Salesforce developer. I have seen people who have been certified as platform developers in like 6 months. And then there's people like me who've been going back and forth for years. It really just depends on your resource, how you use your resources. You know, Trailhead, there's the certification days I mentioned. There's programs like Rad Women Code, where they teach you like a developer program. I went through that part 1. So I can't say there's a time frame. It's one of those things that happens, and it depends on, you know, how you want to do it. What do you want to do? Like for my platform developer, I don't think there's a lot of companies that have this particular role because they mix it in with something different. But overall, it just depends on the person and how well they grasp the information. A BA in product management. So I'm not exactly sure. So product management, I'm not sure exactly what we mean in that context. I think, yeah, that one I would need to look up a little bit more because I'm not sure what the what the difference would be either. I don't come across a lot of product managers in my spheres. I have project managers, which is why I was like, wait. I think those would be more on the sales side though. If anything, it could just be Google real quick. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so the product manager is the person who identifies the customer need. Okay, so basically from the description I just saw, a BA and a product manager, there's a lot of overlap, but maybe the focuses are different. So if one wanted to transition into Salesforce, they would just be utilizing the same skills, just in a different way. You may even find some roles where that's literally what the title is, but you're a BA underneath it all.
Okay, so I would like to ask the last question before anyone else asks a question. So I've been seeing a lot of Salesforce cybersecurity. How do people venture into such jobs, cybersecurity? Because security is now a big deal. Every organization is taking their cybersecurity very seriously. So I'm aware of cybersecurity for Amazon and Oracle and other companies. But how do you take in such roles in Salesforce?
Ooh, okay, that's a really good question. So Salesforce, part of the architect track actually includes a lot of certifications around security because Salesforce has been dealing with security, like we've had Salesforce Shield for years. So if you wanted to go and pursue down that path, I would say, again, Trailhead is going to be your first resource, and to start looking for those paths that are mentioning, like the security focused paths, start working down those. And then with the certifications, every certification you need at least admin for. But then once you have your admin, then you can start pursuing those like infrastructure, those data infrastructure and architecture, those sorts of security focused certifications as well. So I would start with Trailhead, getting that information or gaining up those skills and then utilizing it from there. Making sure it's known, hey, I have these badges, I've taken these trainings, I'm knowledgeable about this track, because there's technically right now no official cybersecurity specialists like track right now, but that doesn't mean it's not coming, it's just we don't have it now.
Thank you, Cece. One last question. Last question. So Salesforce is not so big here in Africa as compared to other CRM applications, right? So aside from people outside of Nigeria who take on the course or who are probably in the UK, US, Canada, right? How can we in Nigeria take on the opportunities? How can we leverage on that? Could you speak with your community on how Nigerians are very, hardworking and how they can hire us even from Nigeria?
We need you to be multipliers. That is, so on Trailhead, and I'll throw that link in the document I'm going to give you guys. There is information on how to start your own Trailhead groups, how to start your own organizations, because that's what we need. Once we have user groups, start your own user groups in your areas, start getting the word out that you're out there, like, hey, hello, we're come give us the jobs, we exist. Sorry, I just saw a message. So that is not true. So sorry, I'm going to jump around. Yes, the best way to get the attention and get the word out there is to be a multiplier. We need voices everywhere. We need you to stand up and say, hey, we are here, let us join. There's dreaming conferences. You can start one up out in there. Nigeria Dreaming. I would go. There's things. There's ways. There's a lot of small places out here in America that wouldn't be on the radar if we didn't have someone out there putting out a group to say, hey, we are here, and give us our chances too. To answer the question about the demand, at the very least, no. So you are be very hard pressed to find an architect or developer who would want to do an admin job. That is where that gap is. There, I don't think it's a decreasing demand. I think it's a shift where we're calling things other things, but they're always going to need admins because architects, they've spent their life, like if you're a certified Salesforce architect, you've got at least like 15 certifications. You've spent it's a really, really hard designation to get. So they don't want to be admins. It's not to me, it's just they're to them in their career, they're past that work. Same thing with a lot of developers, they don't want to do that administrative work. That's actually why my platform developer job exists, because it's a gap between admin work and the developer work that they don't want to do, like config and things. So I would not be worried about this particular issue, because they're always going to need admins all over the world in any company, everywhere. Like they're always going to need admins, and admins are one of the highest paid career tracks. And I'm going to share the link. Bear with me a quick second. Okay, I'm going to put the link to the deck in the chat. Yeah, and the other thing is, to be anything else in the ecosystem, you literally have to be an administrator. So I don't think those jobs are going anywhere at all. Any other questions?
Okay, no question. Oh, okay, great. So, okay, I have the presentation with me. So I'm going to share it with everyone immediately after the webinar. So while there are no more questions, I believe we can. Yeah, I'm trying to check the chat box to see if there's any other question.
There is, and I'm going to throw a link in there. So outside of Trailhead, which I think I said 75 times, but it's because it's that important, is David K. Liu has a course. I put in the link. This is literally one of the best developer programs you could possibly come across. Yeah. And then it does cost. We just met, so last month, he does every few years, he'll make it a free. So in April, it was free for the month. But he's got videos. He's a really, 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 he breaks it down to try to get anyone to be a developer. And the last link is to Rad Women. That's the organization I was talking about. Their goal is to get women into development roles. They want women developers. They have a course every 6 months. It is very competitive, but it is worth it. And they whip you into shape. I've graduated part 1. I'm hoping to graduate part 2 this year, because that's how in demand it is. Yeah, but it's awesome. So those 2 resources, and if you want, I'll throw these in the deck as well. Those would be, if you want to be a developer, these 2 are your go-tos.
Amazing. Oh, Rad Woman. Amazing. Okay, we are going to share this on our Telegram group so everyone can take advantage of it. Okay. Yeah, so
I feel like something with pepper. I didn't really eat anything at Central House.
Okay.
Let's
So
watch
does any other one? Are there other questions?
So that was the only thing that was in my house. The cake that they gave me at that place. The shoe, as in she was tired. I don't know, she was fastly sleeping. When I go there, she was in class. And this time she will take power nap. From power nap, so you enter sleep. So she even she said, when she said she was looking for food, but I didn't see what she had in there.
So I think that's all for now. We are going to share the Telegram group.
Hi,
to the-
but we can't see the link, please. The link is not showing on the chat.
Yeah, so Lolade, I'm going to share it on the Telegram group. I think Cece sent it to me privately. So I'll
Okay.
share it.
Oh, my apologies.
All right. Please add us to the Telegram group. All right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Telegram group is in the Instagram bio, so you can join and then access other information like the PowerPoint presentation and the links she shared earlier. All right. So thank you, Cece, for honoring our invitation. It was an enlightening session. I'm sure we all gained one or two things because we are always trying to upskill and learn. So everyone, please share your thanks with Cece. Tell her thank you for reaching out to us. And
Thank you guys for having me. Hope I helped, and keep in touch. All the ways to reach me, LinkedIn, definitely. That way I can, if I see opportunities, I can pass them your way too.
thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, bye guys. Have a good one.